All right, welcome to section 6.6. All right, we are going to use everything that we have learned in chapter 6 and apply it now in this section 6.6. Okay, so here's something we do know. If A times B equals 0, we know that either A has to be equal to 0 or B has to be equal to 0. And we're going to use that philosophy with our quadratic formulas here, or quadratic expressions, except now we're going to make them quadratic equations, and we're going to solve them by factoring. So, for example, I need to solve for x here, okay? To be able to do that, I'm either going to need to know that pod 1 is equal to something, or pod 2 is equal to 0. So, in order to do that, I'm going to pod it up. I'm going to get x. How do I get them both to be positive? They're either plus or minus, and they're minus. My factors of 36 are 1 and 36, 2 and 18, 3 and 12, 4 and 9, or 6 and 6. So I put in 6 and 6, and they will equal 0. Let's test the insides. That gives me negative 6x. Test my outsides. That gives me another negative 6x. Sum that up, and that gives me negative 12, so that's not right. So it's not 6 and 6. So let's try 4 and 9. 4 and 9. Okay, so that would give me negative 4x. And this would give me negative 9x. Sum those up, that does give me negative 13. Okay, so this is my equation. X minus 4 times x minus 9 equals 0. So I know either that x minus 4, I'm going to take x minus 4 and set it equal to 0, so I'm going to add 4 to both sides. So x is equal to 0. Or x minus 9 is equal to 0. Add 9. Add 9. So x is equal to 9. So when you go into Math Excel, you're going to give the answer. X is equal to 4, 9. Because they want to know all the solutions that would make x could equal to make that equation equal to 0. Let's look at this next equation. Okay. Again, remember our rules of factoring. Okay, you need to have it in descending order. Factor out the greatest common factor. Then you can look at potting. So here, I have the greatest common factor. It's x, leaving me x minus 8 equals 0. All right, I don't have to factor anymore because now I'm down to a single degree here. Once your x's are single degrees, you don't have to factor again. So I know x is equal to 0, or x minus 8 equals 0. And I add my 8, so x is equal to 8. So when you go into Math Excel, you're going to write x is equal to 0, 8. What about this? Okay, so like before, on the previous two problems, there was something special about them. When we are solving, we always have to set the equation equal to 0. So right now, my equation is not equal to 0, it's equal to 28. So I can easily take care of that, and I'm going to subtract 28 from both sides. So that would give me x squared minus 3x minus 28 equals 0. So now that it's set to equal to 0, so when solving, you are going to make sure that the equation's set to 0. Then you're going to make sure it's in descending order, and then you're going to factor out the greatest common factor, and then you're going to do the little pods, okay? So it's set to 0. Is it in descending order? Yes. Do I have a greatest common factor other than 1? Nope. So now I can just go straight to potting. Okay, what makes x squared? X and x. How do I make this minus sign? Well, a plus and a minus. How do I make 28? I get 1 and 28, 2 and 14, and 4 and 7. So I come in, put my 4 and 7 in. Check the insides, that gives me 4x. Check the outsides, it gives me minus 7x. Sum that up, and that gives me negative 3x. So which is what I want. And this here, so don't drop off that equal sign. Never drop off that equal sign, because all of a sudden you've turned it into an expression if you have. And that's not the same as an equation. Okay, now that this is an equation, I'm going to go in and set each part equal to 0. So x plus 4 equals 0, and x minus 7 equals 0. Minus 4, minus 4. So x equals negative 4. Plus 7, plus 7. X equals positive 7. So your answer will be x is equal to negative 4, comma 7 when you enter it into Math Excel. Okay, what about this problem? Some of you might think to use the square root, but that's going to get you in trouble. You want to use your factoring rules. So again, in order to solve, we need to set it equal to 0. So you're going to subtract 36 from both sides. So that's going to give me x squared minus 36 is equal to 0. Am I in descending order? Yes. Is there a greatest common factor? No. All right, so let's go ahead and potter up. Okay, and this is one of those special rules. This is a perfect square. This is a perfect square. So my A is equal to x. My B is equal to 6. And the last thing is I have that minus. So I'm going to have x plus 6 and x minus 6 equals 0. So now I can solve. So that would be x plus 6 equals 0 and x minus 6 equals 0. Subtract 6, subtract 6, add 6, add 6. Therefore, x is equal to negative 6. And this one, x is equal to positive 6. So when you go in and enter that, enter that into Math Excel, you're going to write negative 6, comma 6. What about this? I feel like this is one that they're trying to trick you. Okay, what's the first rule? Set it equal to 0. Okay, in order to set it equal to 0, I'm going to subtract 4x. But the other thing I don't like these in the pods. So in order to get rid of these pods, I'm going to FOIL. So I'm going to get x squared minus 9x plus 4x minus 36 is equal to 4x. Okay, I'm going to subtract 4x, subtract 4x. So in the end, I'm left with x squared minus 9x minus 36 is equal to 0. Okay, it turned out that these two canceled, but they may not always cancel. Okay, so you might just have to combine like terms. So you might have to do minus 9 plus 4 minus 4 kind of thing and combined. All right, am I in descending order? Yes. Can I take out the greatest common factor? No, there is none. So let's go ahead and pod and set that pod equal to 0. So what makes x? X and x. What makes a negative? Plus and minus. What makes 36? 1 and 36. 2 and 18. 3 and 12. 4 and 9. And 6 and 6. All right, I know 6 and 6 is out because I have middle terms. Okay, so because I have that plus or minus. Now let's try 4 and 9. So that gives me positive 4x minus 9x. If I do my insides outsides, that gives me negative 5, which won't work. So let's try 3 and 12. Oops, Control Z. All right, and I'll finish